What are whole body deodorants and why have they been popping up everywhere? When I was growing up, we didn't have such thing as a whole body deodorant, and now I feel like everyone's talking about them. Well, let's break down what they are, the different types of sweat glands that you and I have, because not all sweat is stinky. We're also gonna break down what old people smell is, that medicinal, grassy, or kind of waxy smell. I'm going to tell you which of these products actually work and which ones literally smell like a baby diaper, and like not in a good way, because I bought some of these and I thought I was going to like them, and oh my god, I felt like I was going to throw up when I first put them on because of how bad they smell. Well, speaking of smells, let's talk about whole body deodorant. As the name implies, whole body deodorant is a deodorant that you can use on your entire body. Most people use deodorants in their armpits, but as you probably know, we can get smells elsewhere, such as, yes, the groin, but even the backs of the knees and the back of the neck. Now, there's two things you need to know about this. Number one, the types of sweat and why sweat technically doesn't smell, but most importantly, the difference between a deodorant and an antiperspirant. Let's break down the word deodorant. De means not or without, and odorant means something that causes odor. So a deodorant literally covers up, conceals, or stops odor from happening. Now that is very different from an antiperspirant. The prefix anti means not or against, and perspirant relates to perspiration, aka sweat. And those antiperspirants actually work quite differently. You see, all of our sweat comes from these cool little sudoriferous glands. They kind of look like these tied up little strings. And these sudoriferous glands actually create two different types of sweat depending on where they are in the body. We're gonna get to those different types of sweat and how they can lead to different smells in just a second. But what's important to know is that antiperspirants actually go into this sudoriferous gland and block it so that you're not able to sweat. Usually these are aluminum based, and that's what you find in those regular deodorants. Now, a lot of people are afraid of aluminum because they've heard that it like causes Alzheimer's or cancer or things like that. A lot of those studies have really poor data, and a lot of brands like this one here, Native, are actually pretty guilty of fear mongering, meaning that they are saying that these things are bad just to get you to spend more money on something that doesn't contain that. Now, if you don't want to use aluminum in your products, you definitely don't have to, but for me, based on the data and the research that I've seen and listening to doctors and derms and other experts talk about this, I'm not particularly scared of it. And here's the thing, when companies remove ingredients like aluminum, which is an antiperspirant, they might replace it with something like baking soda, and baking soda can actually be really irritating to the skin as well. So you're kind of trading one for the other. But those are the differences between antiperspirants and deodorants. And you'll notice that a lot of these brands aren't saying whole body antiperspirant, they're saying whole body deodorant, which again is very interesting. And as you can see, they come in many different forms. The traditional deodorant, the one that I think of when I hear deodorant, is a stick, just like this one. This is new from Dove and it's actually really good. It's a VitaminCare with vitamin B, but we're gonna talk about which of these smells like and which of these actually do and don't work. Now they also have these whole body deodorant sprays, and I have actually put 3 of these to the test because yes, Native, which is also known as like a greenwashing brand, they do have some cool recyclable packaging, but they created a whole body spray. So did Secret, and even Old Spice, the men's brand, got in on the action. It's called Gentleman's Total Body, and I will actually say this smells amazing. However, people online are saying that this causes their armpits and balls to sting. So just be aware that that's some people's response, but I actually really like this. And then we have the deodorant paste. And this is where I personally think whole body deodorants really started, with this brand specifically called Lume. I remember like 3-4 years ago, there were all these commercials about the Lume whole body deodorant.
Then kiss your stinky butt goodbye.
Mwah. Goodbye.
I guess this was an OBGYN, a women's health doctor, who noticed that certain people had insecurities about smells below the belt, and so she created this deodorant paste that people could use. I feel like it got really popular, and love or hate their commercials, the advertising worked, and then all of a sudden all of these other brands started to pop up and make their own things. And then some of the big brands like Dove and Secret, like the legacy deodorant creators, they were like, we need to get on this action too. And then Old Spice and then Native jumped in the mix because these large conglomerates saw that everybody was making money. And don't even get me started on large conglomerates, because although these all seem to be different brands, unless you're actually shopping from an indie brand like this one, this is the deodorant balm from AKT, most brands are actually owned by the same 5 to 7 large conglomerates, these large corporations. I've actually spoken about this extensively on TikTok and kind of broken down how the beauty industry works from that perspective. What you need to know for all intents and purposes is that unless you're supporting an indie brand or an international brand, there's a high chance that many of your favorite brands are actually owned by the same parent company. For example, the Old Spice and the Secret are actually both owned by Procter & Gamble. Well, here's the thing about the whole body deodorants is that you can actually spray these all over the body, but different areas of the body smell different. And remember, smell is nothing to be ashamed of. Have you noticed that we haven't shamed smell in this entire video? We are humans. Humans are animals, and it is normal for us to sweat and stink. And we shouldn't have stigma around that, but unfortunately, some people do. And if you do want to change it, this is what you need to know, which also includes how some of these did or didn't work for me, which one actually smells worse than the natural body odor, in my personal subjective opinion. Well, let's go back to that super cool sudoriferous gland, because depending on where those sudoriferous glands are on the body, they actually create two different types of sweat. There are eccrine glands and apocrine glands, and although they look exactly the same, they create two different types of sweat. You see, eccrine glands are on top of our entire body. That's why when you go out for a run, or you exercise, or you're outside on a hot day, your body starts to sweat from like your arm, or your chest, or your back, or even your ankles if it's really, really hot outside. This sweat, although it does moisten the skin, it really doesn't smell at all. You see, the reason our body even sweats is to cool us down, because as that sweat evaporates off the skin, it pulls heat away from the body along with it, and that's how our body naturally cools itself. It's like we have built-in little air conditioners and condensation makers in our bodies. Oh, the human body is so cool. Anyways, these eccrine glands are just about everywhere, but the sweat that is produced by them really doesn't smell. Now that is very different from the apocrine glands. The apocrine glands are in areas like the armpit, the groin, and those places that we normally think of as more stinky, specifically those areas that have more coarse hair. Now the reason that those areas smell different is because of what the sweat is made up of. In these specific areas, the sweat that is produced from these apocrine glands has more fats, it has more carbs, it has more nutrients. And the sweat, again, doesn't actually smell, but the bacterial colonies that live all over our skin and in our armpits, our axillary areas, and everywhere else, those bacteria are hungry. And when the bacteria feeds on these different types of sweat, you can imagine that the bacteria that's eating the really nutrient-dense apocrine sweat, it has different waste products. So the actual smell that you're smelling isn't really body odor, it's bacteria waste product. It's little tiny microbe farts. And all this bacteria that naturally is a part of your microbiome is eating up your sweat, digesting the nutrients, and farting and pooping and making a whole big mess in its wake. And that's why you kinda, ooh, really smells. Especially when you're stressed. When you're stressed, your body goes through many hormonal changes, and cortisol is one stress hormone. But your hormones can actually dictate what types of nutrients are in your sweat, which is released by the body. And you bet those bacteria can eat it and start making waste smells. Oh, love it! Don't you love science? Aren't you happy you subscribed? Aren't you happy you're here? Anyways, it is nothing to be ashamed of. It is totally normal, but for some people, they don't like that smell. Or if they're in close proximity to others, like on an airplane, or for me, if I'm working on someone in clinic, I don't want them smelling my armpits. You know what I'm saying? And there are many ways that you can actually get rid of that smell. Yes, by using a regular deodorant, by using a whole body deodorant, or even using things like alcohol. You know, I'm the type of person that I'll literally put hand sanitizer in my armpits. I even have little deodorant wipes that I use. If you even just spray perfume that's an alcohol base, that alcohol kills bacteria. So it can literally get rid of the smell. And that's not actually going to get rid of the perspiration, that wetness, or that actual like dampness in the armpits, because again, it's not an antiperspirant. Hand sanitizer, perfumes, or anything alcohol based, what I personally use, and it works really well. But these whole body deodorants can be used on both types of sweat, the ones in our armpits and our groins, as well as elsewhere on the body. But here's the thing, there's also a third type of smell that a lot of people don't really talk about or know about. And I think that for the mass media, Lume's marketing kind of helped bring this into the forefront because the founders started talking about this, specifically the quote unquote old people smell. It's that smell of like medication or grass. And when you walk into an old person's smell, you're like, why does everyone smell the same? Like, is it the jar of nuts? Is it the old clothing? Like, what is it? Well, this smell is actually called nonanal, and it's specifically to nonanal. This is something that's naturally created by our bodies as we get older. Normally it's around the age of 40 that the body starts to change and that this nonanal smell kind of comes into the picture. And again, this could be a different age for everyone. And again, it's totally normal, but some people really don't like it. Here's the problem. A lot of people think that if they just shower more or scrub more or have better hygiene, that it'll go away. But that's not true. And a lot of people judge their grandmothers or grandfathers, whoever, for having this smell and saying, oh my God, go take a shower. Showering isn't going to fix it. This smell is actually caused by the waxy substance that our skin secretes. It's from our oil glands. Yes, the oil that shows up on our face and waterproofs us and protects our skin, Well, there's waxy, greasy substances that are secreted from our skin and all of our different glands that can create this too known and now smell. And that's the smell that has this stink. So no matter how much you rub or wash, you're not going to be able to do anything about it. However, whole body deodorants have entered the market saying that they are the solutions for this and that they can cover this up. I think you should go speak to an endocrinologist who studies hormones and smells if you have concerns about that, or speak to your doctor or dermatologist. But I do like that Lume at least brought this more into the conversation. And I do like that their brand, actually works to try to help educate people. Here's the thing, is their product any good? Let's talk about some of these whole body deodorants and the different forms, okay? Let's first start off with the traditional ones. These are actually my favorite. I think Lume has one that comes in this little applicator, but I haven't been able to find it. I went to Target and they were all sold out. But this from Dove is my favorite. It smells decent. My favorite smell is this one, the raspberry and rose. I haven't used this one yet, but this one smells heavenly. I will rub this all over my pits and everywhere else, but this is the one that I've been trying, and because I opened it, I don't want it to go to waste. I don't love the smell of the lavender and chamomile, but that's just because I don't like lavender and chamomile. I know I'm weird. I'm a cinnamon and vanilla girl, okay? Well, this Dove one is the VitaCare, and this actually has vitamin B3, otherwise known as niacinamide. And what's great about that is that you probably know from skincare, niacinamide can balance out our oil production, which yes, can also help in the armpits and anywhere else that you apply this. This also has hydrators like glycerin, which are pretty nice. And again, they say that it's aluminum free, which I don't really care about, but I do like that this is baking soda free, because I've actually found that my skin can be a little bit irritated by baking soda. Now, outside of the pasty sticks, there are the sprays, and I have to say all three of these smell pretty frickin' divine. I have actually tested these out, and the Old Spice is my favorite. Again, I'm a cinnamon and spice girl. I love this. It doesn't make me smell like a man either. Like, it just smells delicious. I mean, maybe it makes me smell like a man and I just feel that that is delicious, but this smells like, what is this? Oh my God, it smells like a vanilla cookie. I know it's marketed towards men, but I love this. And this is specifically a nitro spray. Again, reviews online have said horrible things about this because some people got burns in their special areas. But for me, I just shake it up, and I do have sensitive skin, and even I'm okay with this. What's great about the spray as well is that I can reach the back, and I can even spray this onto my feet if my feet are stinky without having to touch anything. Whereas this, I have to physically touch, and then the paste, you literally have to use your hands and get all up in everywhere. So for me, applicator wise, I'm actually a huge fan of the sprays. Now, when it comes to the Native versus the Secret, I found that the Secret lasted longer and there's no white streaks. There's no white streaks with either of these, but remember, they're both owned by the same parent company, Procter & Gamble. Whereas this one from Native, I actually liked the smell. This is the lilac and white tea. However, this one can be a little bit white if you spray it too close to the skin. And I found that this one didn't last as long. But this one can be a little bit white or greasy if you leave it too close to the skin. I know that that's kind of like a regular thing that people hate on natural brands for. And again, I have some qualms with Native deodorant greenwashing, but I will say they're pretty much the only deodorant out there that actually has paper packaging. I really like their paper stick deodorants. Those are amazing. And they really actually do seem to care about sustainability. I also believe that this is more recyclable than these two, but I'd have to check the cap and the lid and all those details. So I liked this, but I didn't find that it lasted as long. Whereas I found that both of these lasted pretty decently. But for this one, I feel like the actual peach vanilla blossom scent went away faster. This one was the longest lasting and it worked the best in my opinion. This one, I didn't smell for a long period of time, but I could stop smelling the fragrance or my nose got accustomed to it within the first 3 hours. But the delivery of these is fantastic, especially for those who have that old people smell. A lot of times that happens on the neck and on the back where they can't reach. So something like this would be really handy. And then we've got the deodorant pastes. And these are what they sound like. They are literally a paste. And I have tried 3 and I have some very interesting thoughts on them. Again, I kind of feel like this is where it started with Lume. At least that was how I first heard about these whole body deodorant pastes. And the idea is from your pits to under your, you know what I was about to say, onto your feet and everywhere else. You could just rub this in and, call it a day. If you don't mind getting your hands pasty, it works pretty well. Of course, these should never be inserted into the body, although Lume says that you can use this around the body. However, Dr. Mama Jones, she's an amazing OBGYN and mom of 4 or 5, or maybe it's 3, I can't remember, but she's actually spoken about Lume and these other whole body deodorants deodorants, and she has specifically said from a doctor's opinion, do not apply any of these with fragrances in any sensitive areas, even if it is on the outside, always go for the fragrance free. Well, this one is the one that I wanted to love the most, but actually had quite a bit of difficulty with, but it wasn't the worst smelling. This actually smells good. This is the Deodorant Balm from AKT, and this is a mint tomato vine. Now, here's the thing. It smells nice. It actually works really well. This deodorant is really good, and it actually stops me from stinking, but it doesn't completely stop the sweat, but like it prevents the sweat better than the other ones. The problem is I find that it's a little bit chalky. This is the one that if you put it on and you rub it together, it actually feels like sand. I would say this is the roughest, like the least smooth. And that was so disappointing to me because as an indie brand who's completely recyclable, like this is what I wanted to support. Now, if you're okay with a little bit of that sandy feel, like you can make it work, but for me, it's just a little bit frustrating. Now, the ingredients that they use are actually diatomaceous earth and magnesium oxide, which is great because there's no baking powder in here, so it's better for sensitive skin like me. But again, my biggest qualm is with the texture. If it weren't for the texture, this is like my favorite. Then I got this at Sprouts Farmers Market using Instacart. This is the Hume Supernatural All Body Deodorant, and I have to say, this has the driest touch, the best smell, and it was super good for my skin. Now, it does have a fragrance in it, so be aware, but if you put even just a little bit of this on, oh, I lost the cap. You put just a little bit of this on and rub it in, it's completely smooth, so there's no grittiness to it, and then it actually dries down dry. It doesn't leave any pastiness, and it doesn't leave like your armpit sticking to itself, or the backs of your knees, or the insides of your arms. It doesn't leave them like sticking to the other side, you know what I mean? This is actually a really, really nice formula. The problem is that on Instacart, it was like $20. I think on Amazon, it's like $17, so I'll probably get it on Amazon next time. But I really fell in love with this one, and I am going to be trying the fragrance-free one. This was a really nice surprise. I haven't used it in certain areas, but I did use this on my feet. And because this dries down with no stickiness, this actually works really great on the feet. Now, if you have super sweaty feet, you're going to want an antiperspirant, not just an anti-deodorant, but so far this was the winner. Now, let's get to the Lume, right? If this is where it started, Cassandra, why are you beating around the bush? Well, because I had something that happened with this that I was not expecting. And I thought it was just the smell, so I went and I bought the unscented, and then I bought like the citrus one as well. I bought like 3 total. All of these smell like absolute like a kid took in some Play-Doh and rubbed it together and left it in the sandbox, and you went and found it and you're like, what is this? And then you like knock off your feet. Do I even open this? This smells so bad. This is the one that I wanted to love the most out of all of these because again, I really like the founder. I like that they're a small brand. They're not owned by some big corporation yet. I like that it was a doctor who made this to be skin sensitive friendly and for her patients. Let me tell you. Number 1, it smells like ass. Number 2, it's sticky. When I put this on, you try to let it dry down. This is more like a moisturizer than a paste. You see how sticky that is? The smell is... You guys, like, I'm going to vomit. Like, this smells so bad. I'm literally having a gag reflex. Like, I have tried, I'm laughing because it hurts and I am uncomfortable. Like, I have tried so many times and so many different formulations. They all smell like and then someone online was like, well, let them dry down and they stop smelling. No, they don't. Literally smells like the most disgusting substance I've ever smelled in my entire life. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I literally cannot handle this. I had to go wash it off. Okay, now it smells like Billie Eilish's boobs, which is, I guess, some sort of vanilla, which I do like. Anyways, this, as you saw the texture before I literally had to wash it off my hands, it's so sticky and it doesn't dry down, and it like was causing my skin to stick to itself, and then I would have a gag reflex every time I whiffed myself. Like, this smells worse than the body odor. I don't know if it's just me, but again, I tried 3 different types, even the unscented, and it had that effect. The activated body wash was better, but not by much. I'm just like, is it me? Hi, am I the problem? Is me? Or does this absolutely smell like... Out of all of the deodorants that I got, I thought this was going to be my favorite because I loved what they stood for, and I was like, they are the original and everyone else is the copycats. No, these are the winners. These are the best. And out of all 3, I have to say, either the Dove original application, I'm just used to this application and it doesn't get caught under my nails the way that the pastes do, or the spray are probably my favorite, but I do find that the roller sticks last longer than the spray. And at the end of the day, what does this mean for you? Again, these whole body deodorants really have popped up out of nowhere. nowhere. And if they're solving a real problem that we have, such as odors in other places or mobility issues, then I'm all for it. But at the same time, if you're seeing or hearing about this new thing, you feel like it's everywhere and you're being bombarded with it and you don't know why, first off, you're not alone. I feel the same way. And number two, we don't have to go out and buy these things just because they're trendy. If you're happy with your deodorant, continue using your deodorant. If your deodorant irritates your armpit, yeah, maybe switch to a different one or get one that has niacinamide in it. But you don't have to go out and just try this pit paste and be disappointed with it if you don't think you're gonna like it. And again, for me, the application of these was just, it was okay. It was okay. I don't know why it's so trendy, okay? Okay. I think this is also an important lesson on biology and you understanding your sudoriferous glands and the types of sweat they produce and how bacteria, literally part of our microbiome, works with it, and helping to break down the stigma behind body odor. Because even if you have it and you don't want it, you don't have to be ashamed by it. And it can be hard, especially if people make comments about it to you. I literally remember I was in the 5th grade and it was like a parent-teacher conference and my teacher brought my parents outside to talk to them. My mom, came home with me later that day and she's like, listen, your teacher took me aside, wanted to talk to me in private because he says your body odor is really bad, so we gotta start getting you a deodorant. And that's when I first started wearing deodorants. But that for me made me really self-conscious when I was in like the 5th grade. Now, unfortunately, sometimes your body odor does impact others. And again, if there are issues like that, there are ways to cover it, to literally remove it, or to mask it and do things about it. But it's not something that we should inherently feel shamed for or that we should shame others for. We are animals. Have you ever sniffed an animal? They have smells and smells are natural. The whole thing is, how do we live with them? How do we embrace them if we can? Or if they are less than desirable or they're impacting us and our self-esteem negatively, how do we look for options that work? And you now know my opinions on this. Has anyone else had a thing with this? Does anyone else like this? Like, does anyone actually like this? Again, I wanted to love this so bad. It even says 72-hour control. I literally cannot even handle it. I lost the cap to this one. Anyways, I actually contributed to an entire article about this along with other doctors and professionals talking about this and these different smells and what to do about them. So if you want to see that, I'll list it right here. But overall, remember that if you're stinky, it's up to you if you want to do something about it. And if you do want to do something about it, you now know what my favorite options are. I keep on sniffing, thinking I'm gonna get a whiff of this horrible diaper Play-Doh smell. I literally have never found anything in my life that makes me gag and like repulsed more than this. Anyways, so remember to stay hydrated, both orally and topically. It was okay. It was okay. I don't know why it's so trendy. Okay? Okay. Whole body SPF. And always remember to be beautiful both inside and out. I love you and I can't wait to see you in this next video. Love you guys. Bye.